Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another video from the Pinoy Pick Pro. In this video, we are simply going to address what to look at if you're shopping for an entry lock for your home. Now, what I have here are four of the most common, available, and popular locks sold in some of the some of the big box stores, Home Depots, things like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to describe and tell you about the different weaknesses and strengths of these four particular locks. And what I've done is I've taken a certain list of things about these locks, and I've graded them and rated them. So let's start out with first. I have the Quickset Tylo entry lock, and the next one is the Quickset Smart Key entry lock. Then I have a Defiant entry lock. And finally, this is a Schlage entry lock. Now I'm going to start off very quickly. One of the first things that I rate these on is I made a list here, and you might be able to see that. So I started off just going down with installation, drilling, lock picking, bumping, bypassing the lock, the design tolerance, the key pin shapes, key pin depths, security pins, the keys, the keyways, and the dead latches. Now, all of these things play a part in whether your entry lock is a weak lock or it's a strong lock. So, and we're going to go through that list now. But, so let's start off with the Quickset, okay? The Quickset Tylo entry lock. And on an average day, you can go in Home Depot and you can purchase this lock for right about $10. And I don't recommend it. This lock is vulnerable to just about any kind of attack that you're going to throw at it. Now, none of these locks, out of all of them, none of them, well, rather I should say all of them are vulnerable to certain attacks, like drilling out the lock cores. You can do that with any of these locks. Now, for installation of these locks, okay, I'm going to rate these. The hardest ones to install actually are the two Quickset locks. They don't line up very well. They're also made with these quick install inside knobs that you just click them in there and twist it, and the screws pop right through. The Defiant and the Schlage knobs actually are a lot easier to install because of the way the design is, where the screws, they have these guides that line everything up. And this particular Defiant knob does not have that on the other end, but they have started to make them that way. Now, like I said, all of these are vulnerable to drilling. Now, as far as picking, that's a little bit different. You can pick all of these locks. However, they're vulnerable on different levels. The Quickset Tylo comes with two spool security pins. but it's pickable, and you can pick it. The spool pins almost don't really make a difference in this particular lock. They don't really make it any more secure. Now, the Smart Key lock by Kwikset, this one is a lot harder to pick because it's not, the design of this lock does not work the way a conventional pin tumbler lock works. So I've never picked one of these. I've never tried, but I've heard that it can be done. One day I'll attempt it. But the big thing about the two Kwikset locks is that you don't have to pick them, because these locks are vulnerable to a bypass technique that I featured on one of my videos. So you can open these locks without even attempting to pick them. And just real quick, the way that I did that is I popped the cover right here, and I went in through this side hole where I accessed the, let's see if I can get it to actually do it. But I went in here, let me pull the, take that off, and once you pop the cover, you go in through the side hole and you access that lock spindle right there, and you just flip it up just like that, and it's unlocked. So you don't even have to attempt to pick it. So now for the Defiant lock, the Defiant also comes with two security pins, but it is not that hard to pick. It's kind of right in line with the Kwikset's. Now for the Schlage lock, I did put out a video where I gutted this lock, and this lock actually has a security pin in each chamber of the lock. So, and they're not just spool pins, they are T-pins, which is similar to what's called a mushroom pin. And they're a lot harder and difficult to pick. So moving on, now bumping. They say that you cannot bump one of these Smart Key locks. The others, you can bump them. The Schlage's not going to be as easy to bump. But as far as bumping the Kwiksets, well, then again, you don't have to, because you can go right through the side and bypass the lock. So you don't have to pick it, you don't have to bump it. The Defiant lock, yeah, you can bump it. It's not going to be quite as easy because it does have two spool pins in it, but you know, you can do it. Now the other thing about these locks is what actually makes them weak or stronger is their design tolerance. And what I'm talking about is the Kwikset design tolerance is pretty loose. When it comes to the keyway, the pins, the chamber in which the pins move up and down, all of that is designed rather loosely. So there's some slop and some play in there. That makes it vulnerable. Now, the Defiant lock is based on a Kwikset keyway. It uses the same keyway, the same pin design, the same tolerances, so it too is kind of loose, just the way that the Kwikset is. Now the Schlage, however, is designed with a lot tighter tolerances. Less slop, less play, everything is tighter, it's designed a lot closer, therefore it is less vulnerable to picking attacks. One of the other things about some of the design features is the shapes of the key pins. Whereas in Kwikset, all of the bottom pins that your key comes into contact with, they're actually symmetrical. They're the same shape on either end. You can flip them back and forth. And they're designed that way so that Kwikset can save money during the manufacturing process. Now, for the smart key knob, it doesn't actually have like regular key pins. This works off of a different configuration of pins and side wafers and a sidebar. So this one's a little, it's not really in the same category. The Defiant is the same thing as the other Quickset, same pins and everything. Now the Schlage, their pins are different. Their pins are a different shape on one end and then a completely different shape on the other end. And they work better that way. They're designed better. And like I said, they have tighter tolerances, so it plays well. Now, the other thing about the design features is the key pin depths. And what I'm talking about is the depths of the cuts in your keys. And I don't know if I can really make that, see if I can show that to you. But the key pin depths are going to be the depths of the pins that sit in the cuts in your key. Now with Quickset basically gives you pin depths of 1 to 6. Unless you're using a master system, it can go to 7. But that's it. That's all you get. And they have what's called a max of 5. Which means that you can only put a certain length of pin next to another certain length of pin. You can't go from the shortest pin to the longest pin. There's too much difference and the cuts won't work. With the Schlage key, instead of 1 to 6 or 0 to 6, however you want to look at it, Schlage will go 0 to 9, and therefore it also gives you a larger max. Max meaning maximum adjacent cut specification. So you can actually put a longer pin next to a shorter pin. You get more key combinations, and you're able to have more up and down radical bittings and cuts. So that's part of the tighter tolerance that Schlage has designed their products with. Now, security pins. Like I said, we had 2 security pins. The Smart Key, no security pins. The Defiant, 2 security pins. And the Schlage, 5 security pins, 1 in each chamber. Now, the keys, keys are keys, but, the Quickset key is pretty basic. But like I said, the keys fall right along the same rule as the key pin depths. Less depths of cut and less combinations, whereas Schlage gives you more. Now the keyways, there's not a whole lot to say about the keyway. I mean, the keyway is just a slot where you put the key. The Quickset keyways are pretty basic. The Defiant keyway is the same as the Quickset. The only real difference that I've noticed is in the Schlage. Now, it looks just as wide as any normal keyway, but once you get inside of there with this particular lock, the actual pin chambers are more cylindrical and pronounced, where they almost wrap completely around the lock pin, and it makes it very hard to get a lock pick up in there and maneuver it around. It really restricts the space of the keyway, and that makes it less vulnerable to lock picking. Now the other thing is the dead latch, and that's something that whatever you want to call it, it's called a dead latch, but some people call it a latch or a plunger, or now this is the Quickset dead latch. And the problem with the Quickset dead latch is that it comes like that. You actually get a different one of these that has rounded corners on it instead of the square corners. But so you have to take this thing and put it together in 3 pieces. And I know from having worked with many, many, many of these that quickset dead latches are very prone to breaking and failing. They do it a lot. One of the other problems that I have is this part right here. And I don't know if a lot of you know this, but this little check pin here, when you shut your door, this thing is not supposed to go in the hole, okay, of your strike plate. It's really not. It's supposed to be held back like this. So when it's back in this position, it won't let the bolt get pushed in. If you let out, then you can push the whole thing in. This is what keeps people from being able to stick something in your door and jimmy that piece open. Now, the problem that I have with this, and you're not going to be able to see it on here, but I've actually measured the travel distance. When you push the check pin back, I've measured the travel distance of that plunger. And the quickset plunger will move back. I mean, they all move back just a little bit, but then they stop. But the quickset plunger moves back about 5/32 of an inch, which is almost an entire 1/8 inch more than what the Schlage dead latch moves. Now, like I said, these things are prone to failure. This is the quickset dead latch. It's one solid piece. I mean, it's made of different components, but they don't come apart. They're all pressed and riveted and all kinds of, it's pretty solid. Now, this dead latch only moves back about 3/32. So it will get pushed in a lot less than the quickset. And these do not fail nearly as often as the quickset dead latches. Now, this is the Defiant dead latch. And when I measured the travel distance and throw of this one, it's actually in between the quickset and the Schlage. Now, here's something interesting. Now, you can look at the 2 quickset locks, and you can see what they look like on the inside where the lock boss and lock spindles are. And here's something that I found interesting is that a lot of people thought that the Defiant Lock was just an off-make brand of quickset. And actually, it's made in Taiwan by another company. And what I thought was really interesting when I started really looking into all this stuff, if I can get these screws out of here. Like I said, the Defiant Lock uses the quickset keyway and the key, but that's kind of where the quickset similarity stops with the Defiant Lock. So Defiant uses the same keyway as the quickset. Same keyway, the same key. But if you look at the rest of the lock, this is the Defiant and this is the Schlage. So I think Defiant learned a little something from the Schlage lock company. Now, the Schlage and the Defiant both are not vulnerable to being able to pop the cover and come in and bypass the lock spindle, because the lock spindles are protected by this square sleeve on both the Defiant and the Schlage. Even if you could pop the covers off, it doesn't do you any good. And that's the thing about the cover on the Defiant lock. The cover around the rose of the Defiant lock is pressed on and bent over in a tapered fashion where you can't pop it off. So to give you a better look at the lock spindle, let's put this back on there. So when the lock is together, you can see that that protective cover over the lock spindle, even if you could get in there, you can't get to the lock spindle. There's nothing there to bypass. So that thing's completely protected. And it's the same with the Defiant lock. So in the end, the best bang for your buck, if you're shopping for a lock, and you'll be able to see here, at the end of my scoring, the Schlage scored 15, the Kwikset scored 5, and the Defiant scored 9. So the Defiant is a much less expensive lock, but it still does quite a good job. I really wouldn't have a problem with this lock. I mean, now when I come up against a Kwikset lock, I don't even bother trying to pick it. I just pop the cover off and I bypass the thing right through the lock spindle. And so like I said, $10. This lock is actually about $28. The Kwikset Smart Key entry lock. I found the Defiant at Home Depot for $8.97. Now the Schlage is going to be, the price is going to vary depending on where you buy it, when you buy it. This one I got, it was in a set it's an entry lock, and it also came with a grade 1 deadbolt. And I got it on sale, and it was about, I think, $30. It might have been closer to 35 on sale, but I don't really remember. Now here's the thing. $8.97 for a Defiant keyed entry lock. You can pay your $9 for this lock, take it to a locksmith, and have him open it up and beef up all the pins inside of this thing, and you're not going to be able to pick it. You're not. You know, I mean, you're talking about your average home invasion or neighborhood thug who thinks he's going to come and pick your locks. He's not going to pick this thing. And if I or some other lock professional were to rekey a Defiant knob and make it more secure, well, he's not going to pick this either. So there you have it. If you're shopping for locks for your home, Kwikset, throw them in the trash. Don't even look at them. If you want really good security, go with the Schlage. If you don't want to go with the Schlage, go with the Defiant. It's a lot less expensive, but it does twice the job that the Kwiksets do. So there you have it. And thank you for watching.